Okay, so this is a review of half-hole technique, and we need to pay attention to this top index finger when we're playing our three half-hole notes, which are at the top of the bass clef, F sharp, G, and G sharp. And the idea was, when we learned these fingerings initially, we learned how to pivot this finger without any wrist motion, and that's the movement that we need on the actual bassoon. As a quick review, that exercise was starting with the finger here with straight fingers, pivoting away, and then let them curve, pivot away. Bring in the thumb and actually do some pivoting on that thumb right there, the thumb touching both of the two fingers, and see if you can get that finger to continue to move in contact with the thumb. And finally, the right hand can go over on the left shoulder, and the student can actually practice that pivoting motion on the forearm. So that's the basic motion. You want to make sure that this motion is not taking over. There should be no wrist motion in the proper half-hole technique. So there's a couple of exercises that will help us practice this particular technique on our three half-hole notes. So the first one is called just EGF, G, E, G, F, G, E, as much as you want. Starting on an E, then E with first finger and whisper key. All of these notes have the whisper key down. E, half-hole G, F, half-hole G, E. And the idea is to make sure that not only is this pivoting correctly with the index finger, but when the fingers leave the bassoon for F, open F, then we need to make sure that when the finger comes back down, it's in the correct position where it was before we played E and rolled up onto the E. So rather than opening and then closing back down fully over the tone hole, we're always going to go back to G, which is a half hole. And so we don't want to put it on the hole and try to roll it down. We're trying to place it below the hole slightly. And that way, all we need to do is pivot up to play our E. So we start on the E, and in order to do that, we need to make sure we understand the basic idea, which is place the index finger below the tone hole. Place it just below, so we have at least half the hole exposed. Then, with the other fingers in place, make sure that that finger is able to pivot and fully seal that hole. Okay? So this exercise is E, G, F, G, E, G, F, G, over and over. And you can see how it looks. Now, I'll mention right there, so that's the basic pattern. And there's one thing you can challenge your bassoon player to do here, which is use the pinky key when playing G. Since you don't have to worry about the other half holes on this exercise, this is a great time to reinforce that alternate fingering that's going to help the G sound a lot more in tune. So now with the pinky, as you can see, takes a little practice, but that's going to help the student actually work this motion right here, moving from half-hole G to E, and it makes sure that they're working the placing of the finger for a half-hole note, from open F to half-hole G with the index finger in the correct place. So that's one exercise. And then another simple exercise that was in a previous video was just octave jumps. So for our three half-hole notes, F sharp, G, and G sharp, I can play the low version, which just means my finger is fully sealed. It's pivoted up onto the tone hole, my index finger. And then I can play the high version by just relaxing that finger and letting the hole open. For F sharp, I have the half hole the most open, more than half. For half hole G, I have it about halfway, but a little bit more than half still. And I use this pinky. And then for half hole G sharp, I uncover actually less than half of the hole. So those would be details that a student can work on in this exercise. But it just sounds like octaves. So it's starting with low F sharp. It's going to be done with the tongue, but it can also be more valuable, and it's written in the back of the workbook as a slurred exercise. Another thing to note here is that the low octave and the high octave should feel the same. Don't firm up when you go to play the higher octave, and voice do in both of these registers. This is G with the pinky alternate. Whoa. Now you can see and hear that the tuning kind of goes all over the place. As you're learning to play, the air supply may not be consistent and the embouchure may not be fully consistent. So having a tuner right there for the student to see these variations in their sound can help them figure out, okay, this is how much of the hole I need to open. This is how much air I need to use to support. Just keep reminding them not to bite down to make the pitch go up. And then finally, G sharp, same thing, octave jumps. So we're working toward a consistency in the voicing, do, and an avoidance of pinching or tightening up to get that high sound. Try to blow straight through as the finger moves up and down on this tone hole. Try to keep the air consistent so that we can learn to play with an appropriately relaxed embouchure in that half hole range, and we can fight the temptation to always tighten up or firm up when we play higher notes. It's just not necessary in a lot of places on the bassoon. What is necessary as we play high is sometimes a change in voicing. So we generally go from really open vowel like da in our lowest range to do in the bottom of like near low F, all the way up to C at second space. And then we have a do beyond that. The only exception is those half whole notes, which are do, because they typically are very sharp. So they're a little bit more open and relaxed. And then we're back to do, and we work our way up to D as we get to the highest notes in the bassoon. And there's a diagram on the same pages where you'll find this half-whole octave jump. Look in the back of the workbook for Duran exercises. Okay, so that's the basics on half-whole technique. And next we're going to talk a little bit about flicking.